heart and your system. Why are you so desperate? Why are you so filled with pain? Well, come on, beat the wife. Are you in control of your life? I wish I had your inferior ignorance. No!
All right, that band is from Boise, Idaho, Septic Death, doing Blind Control, and that's Pushead's band. You probably, most of you know Pushead from his weird drawings, and he also, he's a man of many talents. So without further ado, here's a little talk we had with Brian Schroeder. We have here young Brian Schroeder, who a lot of people may not know by the name of Brian Schroeder, but undoubtedly know by the name of Pushead, whose drawings grace the covers of hundreds of records. We were just talking about a magazine called Counterattack from Philadelphia that every other page has some derogatory remark about another Pushead cover. Brian, what's the story?
Well, it's basically I've done a lot of work to get where I am. And I've written to people, and I've always offered to help them out. And these people have appreciated that, and they've let me do it. And I'm not getting rich off of what I'm doing. And people are just using artwork. There is other artists out there, but if they're gonna sit around and wait for people to write to them and let them do work, then that's what they're gonna have to do. And when people complain about it, then they don't understand what's behind it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, first of all, you have been writing to like hundreds of people all over the place, and how did you get into that? I mean, what motivates you to make all these contacts and all this stuff?
Well, there's an interest, when you start listening to the music and stuff. There's more to the music, there's a human interest behind the people and what they're doing and stuff, and it's like, I was interested in what that. At first, I wanted to start a fanzine, but I had done some artwork. And so I would send samples along, and I would say, if you wanted, I'd be interested in drawing some stuff for you if you wanted. And more people were interested in the artwork than the fanzine, so... And I continue to write to people still. I still write to when I get new addresses anywhere. And it gets around where, when you write to someone likes what you write, and they write back, and then they pass along your address, like Lodja of Turvey Cadet, or Vote, or Sheesk, those guys in Europe. They give my address out all over the place, and I get lots of mail from them.
Yeah, you get more records than we do, and we're pissed.
Well, don't say that.
All right, now let's talk about your artwork a bit. First of all, how long have you been drawing?
Well, I've drawn since I was very little. It was something that I was very interested in doing. I like looking at comic books and stuff like that. But to get into the hardcore effect, it was like, I was drawing for like record stores and stuff like that in a time, and I saw like a lot of flyers being drawn, and at that time there was some stuff by Sean Carey and stuff by Pettibone, and that was all that you really saw, and they were being captured by a particular band, and they were, and everybody else was out there trying to make flyers to equal that, but nobody came out with anything. And then the rest of the time I saw that the flyers were being made in 5 seconds for a band, and a band is out there trying to draw your attention to come see them, and they're putting out this flyer that is worthless in 5 seconds. Like, we're playing this Saturday, today's Friday, we better make a flyer. And so it's just like where I live, there's nothing going on.
Which is where?
I live in Boise, Idaho, which is 400 miles from any major metropolitan, and in the middle of no place, and 5 years behind anything.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about, some people would look at your drawings and say, God, this guy must be totally sick, or something like that, You seem fairly human to me. What are you trying to do with your drawings?
Well, I guess it's like, if you look at someone else's artwork, it's, there's a style and stuff that will appeal to you, but the stuff that sometimes draws you to look at it is what's the most important. And a lot of stuff that's very clean and slick sometimes doesn't appeal, and a lot of times I will put like, the drawing means something. I just don't draw something, it's like, I don't draw drawings like blood sausage and stuff like that just so that, it's just like, yeah, here's a drawing, it has a knife, doing this, and you can have a good time with it. there's something else behind it, and and if I can make somebody look at that, and they look at it and they get their own conception, that's good. Because I don't want to really put down a label on what a drawing represents, because if I put down a label, then they don't agree with that.
So in other words, you have your own interpretation, but other people are
right.
welcome to theirs.
Right. Well, because it's like, you can, the way I draw is I put something down on paper and I don't really finish the drawing. It's like it's left open, and that way it's left open to somebody's imagination, because everybody has an imagination, everybody thinks differently. And so everybody can fill in their own gap to what they see there. And if I put labels on stuff like that, then that closes their imagination, and then they don't get to think that way.
Mm-hmm. All right, now besides drawing, you write.
Yeah, I got into writing. I started that because in the very long time ago, nobody was writing record reviews and stuff like that in certain things, certain magazines and stuff, to where other people would know it existed. And so I don't know how to write. I just took a chance, and I just did the best that I could and informed stuff. And
you have a very distinctive writing style.
Yeah, people say it's a thesaurus or whatever you say. It's like, God, you must have
a lot of adjectives.
Yeah.
Why is that? What do you?
Well, I really don't think that you can do much with a record review when you say it's a great record, get it. And a lot of times it's not fair to compare to another band, because if you say like Agent Orange from Holland sounds like Discharge, well, if you don't like Discharge, then you're not going to take a chance at it. And where they happen to be a very good band, but when you put that kind of label on it, then somebody's not going to be interested in getting it, because if they don't like that band. And so basically what I try to do is write something so it expresses the feeling of the music, and how when you listen to it, how you feel to it. The lyrics are important too, and sometimes I try to strive that, but most of the time I don't see anybody on their first time they listen to a record is that when they pull out the record, they're reading lyrics at the same time that they're listening to music. They listen to the music first. And when you go into a store, if they have if they have a turntable on, there's something playing, you're not reading the lyrics and you're not doing all this and you don't care. You're listening to the music. And that's, since I've worked in record stores and I've been around that, that's the same thing that I try to do. Is like, I'm just trying to write the review for on a first come basis. You're unfamiliar with the band, and I try to use bands that are not very big. I try to use more ones to broaden out the scope for other people who are interested, because everybody knows about Black Flag, so why review Black Flag? They deserve to be reviewed, but they're being reviewed in Trouser Press and stuff like that. And they're already to the masses, but bands like DRI and Poison Idea and the Neos, they're not. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when they only press 1,000 of those records, then it's worth other people's efforts to buy them, because they're out there to buy them. They're excellent records.
Okay, now let's switch to skating, which is a big thing that you always do, right?
Yeah, I've skateboarded for years. I find skateboarding a lot of fun. To me, it's probably the best one-on-one sport that you can do. It's just you and the board, and it's up to you, and you can do it by yourself. You don't have to rely on anything else, except for you have to have a surface to ride on. But the surface, it's up to your imagination and what you can do. Mm-hmm. Like with skiing and surfing, which are one-on-one sports too, surfing you have to rely on the wave. So it depends on the wave to what you can do. And on skiing, it depends on the conditions of the snow. But in skateboarding, you're riding on concrete, and it's solid. And then once you understand how the terrain is and how the transition is, then it's up to your imagination, because it's like what was happening when it came back, the second generation came back of skating. It's like it was just people riding around. And now with what's going on, I don't think anybody even imagined that it would be possible. But people have imagination, and they're creative, and they do something with it.
Mm-hmm. Besides writing for our mag, you write for Thrasher, which is a skate mag.
A skate mag, yeah.
Right, and you sort of seem to be one of the links between skating and hardcore, at least to some degree. What is the connection? I mean, for you?
I think basically what happened was that a lot of the well-known people like Jay Smith and Dwayne Peters, they were shown in the media as being hardcore punks because that's something that they did, and all the other kids were really impressed by their skating and stuff, and they were kind of borderline on whether they should do this or not, and these guys really influenced them to cut their hair and do that, and that started a lot, and so then it kind of evolved from that because, you know, there's a lot of people who did exactly what Dwayne Peters did at that time.
Also, another one of your areas that you put energy into is a band in Boise, right?
Yeah, we formed a band a year and a half back, and it's called Septic Death, which is basically when you die, you're dead. You're not going to come back. And because I'm not into this fear of dying and stuff, it's like when you die, you're going to die. You can't escape by saying, well, maybe I'll go over here and maybe I'll go over there, because you're afraid of what's going to happen, the unexplained. And it's just everybody in the band is a skateboarder too, and we're all friends, we're all skaters. And we've practiced for a long time, and we've basically, in our town, we've just waited until it grew a little bit, the scene grew a little bit in our town before we came out, and instead of like trying to really push something, we just waited till the people, there was more people who were into it that could support it more. And now it's like our scene's growing really strong, and we're really surprised.
You should give an address, perhaps, unless you don't want thousands of people writing to you.
People, I try to. Anybody can write to me, and they can. I don't care what they write to me. If they send me stamps or a self-addressed envelope, it's a lot easier because I get so much mail the way it is, and it's very expensive. And I'm unemployed, and it's like I say, I don't make much money off my artwork. Mm-hmm. And because it's like when you're dealing with the hardcore people, they're just like me. They're not very rich either, and you know, you can't take money from somebody who doesn't have it, and I'm not in it to get rich anyway.
Right.
I just like to support and help people out. To me, that's hardcore. You know, hardcore is dedication. It's not a uniform that you wear or a shock treatment.
Okay, so Brian, the address.
The address. Okay, I live at 2713 Kerr, and that's in Boise, Idaho, and it's 83705.
Okay, that's Brian Schroeder. All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
All right, so you just heard that interview. Brian forgot to mention his mate's name. He wanted me to mention her name. He writes her name into all his drawings somewhere. So here goes. Anne. All right. Let's see. Now we're going to play some West Coast stuff, and we're going to start out with a band from Sacramento. Actually, let me just mention this day that we're recording the show. It's Flag Day, and this song is very appropriate. This is Social Revenge doing "Don't Pledge."
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the corporate states of America and to the profits that they make. One nation under